Greetings. Peace be with you. Hope that you're staying strong. Hope that you're continuing to improve, even though it is a very surreal time, really. Even if, I consider what's going on all over the world, this, lockdown, quarantine, it's like actually unbelievable. It's actually crazier than a movie. And as you dig deeper into what's actually going on behind the scenes, it just gets crazier and crazier. But in this video, I want to share with you how to change the world, right? I was reading a quote the other day. So just as a side note, I on Facebook, there's a Chrome extension that you can install, and it's called Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator, right? So what it does is that it actually eliminates the newsfeed in your Facebook, right, on your desktop, and it actually replaces the newsfeed with a motivational quote. And I read a quote over there from Anne Frank, right, who was like a teenage kid during the time of the Holocaust, who, obviously saw some of the worst of human conditions ever. And it was a quote from her. Her diary went on to become very famous as well. There's like a whole Anne Frank museum. But the quote was, "How wonderful it is that no one need wait in order to start changing the world." Right? This is coming from like a teenage girl. And when you think about it, it's actually true, right? And at the end of the day, the only way to change the world is to change yourself, right? It's kind of cliche. It's like, yeah, change yourself, change the world. But it's so true, man. Like the greatest contribution that we can make to humanity is that of our own self-realization, right? Once we realize who we really are as eternal spiritual beings, as a single point of awareness in this infinite field of consciousness, having this individual experience of which we are all separate parts, right? We are all individuations of that divinity, that same essence, right? Because the one constant in this universe, in this physical world that we experience is that of change, right? No two moments are exactly the same. It's always changing. But what is that one thing that underlies it all? What is that substantial reality? What is the eternal truth, right? Because in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the spiritual scripture of Hinduism, right? Krishna tells Arjuna that there is no reality in the impermanent, right? That's why they say that this world right now, it's an illusion, right? It's all change, and there's always change going on, and that's not reality. That is Maya, right? That's the Maya matrix, because if it changes, then that is not capital T truth, right? That is something that is fleeting. That is something that is not going to always be true, right? Because what is true is always true, and what is always true has been given many different labels over the years, right? Whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it Allah, whether you want to call it consciousness, whether you want to call it the universe. Like there are different labels that are pointing to the fundamental essence that remains the same as everything is changing, right? And that's really at the core of all the spiritual scriptures that I've looked at in my own journey to this point, right? And understanding that first and foremost, there is a substantial reality, right? Even though there is change going on in our world at every moment, no two moments are exactly the same. There's something that underlies it. There's something that is eternal, right? And that same eternal essence is at the core of every human personality, right? We are all each other living different lives. So it's like a different experience that we're having, even though the essence of it is the same. And at the end of the day, the purpose of life is really to experience that aspect of who we really are, right? To experience the aspect of ourselves, that unborn, undying essence that really is at the core of every human personality. It's at the core of every life. And as we can begin to realize that as our identity, right? And the more we embody that, the more we actually light ourselves up, and as a result we light the lives that we touch, right? Because that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like when you realize that your life is not about you, because when you think your life is about you, you're like constricted, you're trying to save yourself, you're stuck in survival. But once you actually shift from that limited perspective into realizing that your life is not about you, your life is about the lives that you touch and how you touch them, right? That is when everything changes. And once you realize who you really are, then you can be that light for other people, and you're just actually being able to facilitate that evolution in consciousness just by your mere presence, right? Just by people being around you, you become an exemplar of what it truly means to be that calm, cool, collected, expression and individuation of the divine, which is the same in pain and pleasure, right? Of course, it's easier said than done. Of course, it's going to take a lifetime. Of course, life will throw us off center, but it's in our own power to get back to that center, to actually bring ourselves to that place of equanimity, right? And once we're there, that is when we can function in our most empowered state of being. And as a result, when we are empowered, when we're feeling good, when we feel like we're enough, when we feel like we have more, then we are able to give more, and we give that energy to people. And then you never know, man, like you can literally be smiling to one person on the street, just give them that one smile that lights up that person's day, right? There's a power in that as well. That lights up his day, he goes and lights up someone else's day, and as a result, you do not know the impact that you have on every single life that you touch, right? So do not underestimate the power that you have to change the world, because as you change yourself, the world will change as a natural byproduct of that, just by the mere presence of your being, right? We have been fed this lie that we are not powerful, that we don't have the ability to change the world, that we are just here for this short span of time to just live and die and be stuck in that survival, trying to make ends meet. But once we can begin looking outside of that, once we can see the bigger picture in terms of why we are truly here, then we can really begin to shift everything, not only in our own lives, but in the lives that we touch. And as a result, the collective consciousness as well. Okay? Mahatma Gandhi is often quoted as saying, be the change you seek to create in the world. Okay, but that's not actually what he said. That was like a paraphrase of it. What he actually said is that as you change your tendencies, the tendencies of the world will change as well, right? Because everything is a perception. And if you begin to change your perception, then you will change what you perceive as well. It's crazy. Like you change yourself, you change your inner world, the outer world changes as a byproduct of that. And once you actually begin to let go of these negative thought patterns, these negative beliefs, these habits that don't serve you, and really begin focus on how you can serve humanity, how you can serve yourself, right? It starts with yourself, really, because if you are not in that alignment whereby you are making decisions that are to your highest good, right? If you're not making decisions that serve you, then it's really difficult to actually go on to serve someone else, right? Because you are your first priority. But realize that you are powerful beyond belief, right? That's not what they want you to know, right? They want to keep you trapped in fear, because the more that you're trapped in fear, the more that you are easy to control, right? The more you are susceptible to taking in information from the outside, the more you are susceptible to taking instructions, right? Because when you're trapped in that lower level vibration, you're stuck in survival. You can't think with logic, you can't think with rationality, and you forget who you really are as the unborn, undying aspect of your essence, which is at the core of every single human personality, right? So take control of your perceptions, take control of your behaviors, take control of and shift from reacting to external circumstances to responding in the most empowered way that right? Comes down to really establishing the space between stimulus and response, right? Like, I'm with my family right now, for example, and there are certain situations that come up that end up triggering me, right? There's some things that have been stored up, like, they call it a pain body somewhere stored around here, which is, more often than not, something I'm insecure about, and someone says something, and even though they mean nothing by it, right? But my perception of it just becomes so negative, I get triggered. But then when I catch myself and I don't react and I don't say something that is not in my most empowered expression, and I catch myself in that moment, that is really an opportunity to dive deeper into myself and get clear on why I feel the way that I do. What is there for me to learn right now? How can I show up as an example? How can I continue to grow, to improve, rather than get caught up in that cycle, right? So in conclusion, the only way to change the world is to change yourself. And as you change yourself, you cannot underestimate the impact that you have on entire humanity. Okay, like I said, like one smile that you give someone on the street can really be that domino effect, that butterfly effect, which creates like some massive changes going on, right? As I was listening to Neil Donald Walsh, right? He said he was an actor for a long time, and he's like, there are no small, what did he say? He said that there are no small roles, there are only small actors, right? So we all have a role to play, and it is our choice in terms of how we want to express ourselves, how we want to show up, and the choice is in your hands. Okay, you are more powerful than you think, and you have the ability to really create some massive change, not only in yourself, but as you change yourself, you elevate the consciousness as well. Okay, so I hope you got value from this video. This has been Mo. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the like button if you like it. Click the dislike button if you watch at this point and you don't resonate with my vibe. No hard feelings, because I wouldn't want to show up on your newsfeed if you don't get value from this. Okay, but with that, I conclude this video, and I will see you in the next one.